You think you're overthinking because you're anxious, but Sigmund Freud and Friedrich Nietzsche would argue you're actually navigating an invisible landscape of survival patterns your brain built before you were even old enough to speak. Have you ever wondered why you seem to attract the same difficult personalities into your life, or why you find yourself in the same exhausting social dynamics no matter how many times you change your environment? It feels like a curse, or perhaps a lack of judgment, but psychology suggests something far more profound is at work. You are likely experiencing what Freud called the repetition compulsion, a relentless, unconscious drive to recreate the very circumstances that once challenged you. But here is the paradox. Your brain isn't trying to hurt you. It is trying to master a past it never fully understood. Today, we are going to decode the architecture of the misunderstood elite and explore why your greatest psychological burdens are actually the raw materials for a form of intelligence most people will never reach.
This isn't about IQ scores or academic success. We are looking at traumatic intelligence and introverted intuition, traits forged in environments that required you to grow up faster than everyone else. If you have spent your life feeling like a Cassandra, the mythological figure who could see the collapse before it happened but was cursed to never be believed, you aren't broken. You've been cross-trained by life for a world that doesn't exist yet. Before we begin, I want you to take a deep breath and realize that if these signs resonate with you, it isn't a flattering checklist. It is a genuine recognition of a life you have lived in silence. You aren't too much, and you aren't not enough. You are a person who has developed a particular kind of mind because you had no other choice.
The first pillar of this experience is Freud's concept of the repetition compulsion. In its simplest form, this is the unconscious tendency to repeat a traumatic event or its circumstances over and over. You might find yourself drawn to partners who are emotionally unavailable, or bosses who mirror the same cold, controlling energy of a parent. To the outside observer, it looks like you're making bad choices, but internally, your unconscious mind is seeking a do-over. It is looking for a chance to finally win the validation you were denied as a child. You find yourself in these loops because the familiar, even if it is painful, feels safer than the unknown. You aren't seeking the pain, you are seeking the resolution of the pain. You are trying to turn a passive wound into an active victory. This ties directly into what researchers call traumatic intelligence. If you grew up in an unpredictable or emotionally complex environment, your nervous system was trained by necessity to read rooms and predict moods. Your amygdala, the brain's emotional smoke detector, became highly sensitized. You notice the half-second delay before a compliment, the tension in a jaw that is trying to smile, and the shift in a room's energy before anyone speaks. This isn't intuition in a mystical sense. It is a high-level pattern recognition system. You see the end of a relationship or the failure of a project before others even see the beginning, because your brain has already synthesized 100 microsignals into a trajectory.
But this gift comes with a heavy cost. Many people with this form of intelligence develop a fortress of independence. You don't wait for people to rescue you. You build solutions independently and quietly. From the outside, this looks like incredible strength and maturity. Society praises you for being self-sufficient. But from the inside, it is something else entirely. When a child reaches out and meets indifference or irritation, the brain makes a quiet calculation. Asking for help leads to rejection. Therefore, I must become my own source of everything. This is not true self-sufficiency. It is a defense mechanism built around the wound of having needed something and being left to need it alone. As an adult, you refuse help, not because you don't need it, but because you are protecting yourself from the specific pain of watching a need go unmet.
Stop here for a moment, because something needs to be said before we go further. If you are recognizing yourself in these patterns, I want to be very clear. There is nothing wrong with you. There never was. Your brain did exactly what it was designed to do. It looked at the environment it was in and it adapted. It built strategies to keep you as safe and functional as possible in a situation that was asking too much from a child. These habits are not character flaws. They are survival tools. They got you here. But the weight of carrying them into a life where you are no longer that child is starting to cost you the connection and peace you deserve. Let's look at the Nietzschean lesson on betrayal and the debt of helping. Have you ever noticed that the people you support, defend, or help financially and emotionally are often the ones who eventually criticize you or abandon you? Nietzsche asserted a disturbing truth. The one who receives great help can often grow to hate their benefactor. This is because receiving help creates an invisible debt, and debt wounds the ego. When you save someone, you become a witness to their weakness. Some people cannot stand that someone has seen their vulnerability. Instead of rising above, they attempt to restore their inner balance by belittling the person who helped them. They reject you because you are a living mirror of a moment they would rather forget. This often leads to intellectual camouflage. You learned early on how to hide how smart, perceptive, or intense you were. You learned that being too much made people uncomfortable, so you adjusted. You slowed yourself down in conversations. You stopped asking the why that drove adults crazy, and you allowed yourself to be treated like an option rather than a priority. The tragedy is that this camouflage often becomes the identity. You spend so much time reflecting others back to themselves that you forget who you are when no one is watching. You are depth-starved in a shallow world, speaking a foreign language in your own hometown, and yet you keep apologizing for the crime of taking up space. Even your smallest habits reveal this high-level processing. Do you talk to yourself when you're alone? Psychologists call this self-directed speech, and it's not a sign of instability. Studies show it helps the brain organize thoughts, strengthen working memory, and improve focus. It is the sound of an active cognitive system at work, trying to navigate a world that doesn't offer enough complexity to keep it engaged. You have a strange relationship with boredom, because for you, boredom feels physically uncomfortable. Your brain requires a high level of stimulation, and when the world is quiet, your mind starts generating its own input, sometimes through worry, sometimes through fantasy, but always through searching. So, how do you bridge the gap? If you can read everyone's mask, how do you build a relationship with someone who isn't as awake as you are? The blue ocean of your life lies in moving from understanding your rarity to using it as a weapon for your own goals. The first step is breaking the repetition compulsion by becoming aware of the repetition in the moment it happens. When you feel that familiar pull towards someone who requires you to save them or camouflage yourself, stop. Recognize that your unconscious is trying to master an old wound. You do not have to walk into the fire again to prove you can survive it. You have already survived. The goal isn't to become normal or to turn off your perceptiveness. It is to learn how to hold your awareness wisely, like a candle bright enough to illuminate the path, but gentle enough not to burn the hand that carries it. You possess a depth of perception and empathy that is a superhuman capacity, but without boundaries, it becomes a superhuman wound. You must learn to set dignity boundaries. Stop forgiving acts that treat you as an alternative. Stop over-explaining your choices to people who didn't ask and who haven't earned the right to your story. Your rarity
is not a sentence, it is a signal. It tells you that you were not designed to fit into the world as it is. You were designed to see what it could become. You are a person who hears the silence between words and sees the end before the beginning. That clarity is lonely, but it is also your greatest strength. The world is loud about the wrong things. It celebrates the performance and rewards the appearance, but you were built for what is real.
Stop apologizing for the shape of your mind. Healing doesn't start with a dramatic transformation. It starts with almost invisible steps. It starts with saying, I would prefer the Italian place, instead of, I don't care, you pick. It starts with waiting 5 seconds before saying sorry for something that wasn't your fault. It starts with letting someone help you carry the weight, even when you know you could manage it alone. You were a child who deserved to be noticed, and you still do. Your rarity was never your weakness. It was always your quietest, most resilient kind of strength. Now, it is time to put down the armor and finally allow yourself to be seen.